Most men spend their lives believing that love is something you earn through constant effort by being attentive, emotionally available, and endlessly kind. They think if they pour enough warmth into a woman, she naturally reciprocates. But this is where they get it wrong. Women aren't drawn to warmth alone. They're drawn to the fire they can't control. The man who remains steady when she tests him, who doesn't flinch when she pulls away, who refuses to beg for her attention, that man lingers in her mind long after the nice guys fade. It's not about being heartless. It's about being untouchable. In a way that intrigues her, the mistake most men make is assuming that love is built on vulnerability alone. They rush to show their emotions, thinking it will create intimacy, but too much warmth too soon extinguishes the spark. A woman doesn't fall for the man who gives her everything up front. She falls for the one who makes her wonder if she's earned it, the man who is warm on his own terms, not hers. The one who doesn't crumble when she's distant, because his sense of self isn't tied to her approval. That's the man she can't forget. This isn't about playing games. It's about understanding human nature. Desire thrives on mystery, on the space between what's given and what's withheld. When a man is too available, too predictable, he becomes background noise. But the man who remains emotionally disciplined, who feels deeply but doesn't wear his heart on his sleeve, creates a pull she can't ignore. She tells herself she wants kindness, but what she craves is the thrill of the chase, the tension of the unspoken. Because deep down, she doesn't just want to be loved, she wants to be challenged. And the coldest man in the room is always the one who challenges her most. The moment a man reveals his emotions too freely, he surrenders the mystery that fuels desire. Vulnerability is essential, but only when earned. Give it away too soon, and you become an open book, predictable and safe. Women don't crave safety and attraction, they crave tension. The man who masters emotional discipline understands this. He doesn't suppress his feelings, he controls their release. When she expects him to react, he stays steady. When she pushes, he doesn't push back. He lets her wonder. This isn't indifference, it's strategy. A woman's interest peaks when she can't fully grasp a man's emotional state. If she texts him and he replies immediately every time, she stops valuing his attention. But if he occasionally delays, if his responses are thoughtful rather than eager, she starts to question. Asterisk, is he losing interest? Does he have other options? The uncertainty gnaws at her, and in that space, obsession takes root. Emotional discipline isn't about playing mind games, it's about maintaining self-respect. A man who doesn't scramble for her validation signals that his time and energy are valuable. The key is balance. Too cold, and you seem detached. Too warm, and you seem desperate. The man who strikes the perfect equilibrium, who is engaged but never needy, holds the power. He doesn't ignore her, but he doesn't prioritize her over his own purpose. When she withdraws, he doesn't chase. He simply redirects his focus, and that subtle shift forces her to recalibrate. She begins to match his energy, not the other way around. Because deep down, women don't respect men who bend to their whims, they respect men who stand firm. Emotional discipline isn't just a tactic. It's the foundation of unshakable attraction, the most powerful move a man can make. Isn't pursuit its strategic withdrawal? When a woman senses your absence rather than your constant presence, something primal awakens in her psyche. She's conditioned to expect men to chase, to plead, to negotiate for her attention. But the man who simply steps back not in anger or manipulation, but with quiet confidence disrupts this entire dynamic. Suddenly she's the one questioning her own value. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about being genuinely hard to keep. Withdrawal works because it creates an emotional vacuum, and nature abhors emptiness. When you stop filling every Silence with your words when you're no longer readily available at her convenience. She's forced to confront the space you've left behind. The texts she once took for granted now feel like missed opportunities. The plans she casually canceled now weigh on her mind. Your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was, but true withdrawal must come from a place of strength, not spite. The moment she senses you're punishing her or seeking a reaction, the spell breaks. Authentic withdrawal stems from self-possession. You're not disappearing to make her miss you. You're redirecting your energy because you recognize your own worth. This distinction is everything. Women can smell neediness disguised as aloofness from miles away. But when your withdrawal is genuine, when it reflects an internal shift rather than an external tactic, that's when she begins to truly wonder. That's when she starts chasing what she can no longer easily obtain, the paradox. The less you need her to fill your emotional voids, the more she wants to be let into your world. Withdrawal isn't rejection, it's an invitation for her to rise to your level. And the women worth keeping will accept that. Challenge every time. The foundation of true attraction isn't found in grand gestures or constant validation. It's built on the unshakable frame of a man who knows his worth. When you make your emotional presence conditional rather than freely given, you create a gravitational pull that's impossible to ignore. Women don't fall for supplication, they surrender to strength. The man who maintains his center regardless of her behavior becomes the prize, not the pursuer. This shift in dynamics doesn't come from pretending to be cold, but from cultivating genuine emotional sovereignty. Your frame acts as an invisible boundary. It communicates what you will and won't tolerate without needing to say a word. When she tests you with mixed signals or hot and cold behavior, the man with an unshakable frame doesn't react. He observes. He maintains his standards. If she pulls away, he doesn't scramble to reel her back in. He continues living by his own rhythm. This quiet consistency does more to establish your value than any amount of persuasion ever could. Women intuitively recognize when a man's self-worth isn't tied to their approval, and that recognition sparks something deeper than mere attraction. It commands respect. The magic happens when you stop seeing her as the gatekeeper of your happiness. The moment you realize your peace isn't negotiable, your energy changes. You stop anxiously monitoring her responses and start moving through the world with purposeful detachment. This isn't indifference, it's the confidence of knowing that the right woman will meet you where you stand. Women can feel this shift at their core. They may claim to want a man who's always available, but what truly captivates them is the man who's so rooted in his own purpose that her presence is a privilege, not a necessity. That's when she stops playing games and starts proving her worth, not because you demanded it, but because your frame made anything less unacceptable. The most intoxicating form of attraction isn't built through pursuit, it's created through absence. When a woman who once took your attention for granted suddenly finds herself outside your orbit, something profound shifts in her psyche. She may claim to want stability, but what truly ignites her desire is the thrill of uncertainty, the electric tension of not knowing where she stands with you. This isn't manipulation, it's human nature. We only begin to truly value what we fear we might lose. The man who masters this paradox understands that love isn't about filling every empty space with words or affection. It's about allowing just enough distance for longing to take root. When you pull back without explanation, when you replace desperate energy with quiet purpose, you don't just make her miss, you make her question everything. She starts replaying your interactions, searching for clues, wondering why your validation suddenly feels just out of reach. This introspection is where real emotional investment begins. Not in your pursuit of her, but in her sudden need to pursue you. But the true power lies in what happens next. When she does come back, when those texts finally arrive or that effort suddenly appears, your response determines everything. The weak man crumbles with relief, flooding her with the attention she'd been withholding. The strong man remains measured, understanding that her renewed interest isn't the finish line, but another test. He knows the woman worth keeping isn't the one who returns when she senses you slipping away, but the one who stays because she recognizes what she'd be losing. This is how lasting connections form, not through games, but through the unshakable demonstration that while you may care deeply, you'll never need her more than you respect yourself.